what does it truly mean to grow up to, discover your voice when the world outside is doing everything it can to silence you? Today, we're embarking on a really personal journey, a deep dive into the hidden world of a young girl whose words, written in secret, have now resonated with millions across generations. Anne Frank. This isn't just about a historical figure, it's about a deeply personal narrative, a testament to astonishing resilience, sharp wit, and enduring hope in the most unimaginable circumstances.
Yeah, and what's really compelling about that personal narrative is how it comes to us, right? When Anne was diligently working on her second revised version of the diary, she meticulously crafted pseudonyms for many of the people who appear in the book.
Oh, interesting, like aliases.
Exactly. For instance, she initially considered calling herself Anne Alice and later even Anne Robin. However, in the various published editions, her father, Otto Frank, the sole survivor of the secret annex, ultimately made the editorial decision to use their family's real names. But he generally honored Anne's wishes for others, especially those who weren't immediate family.
Okay, so a mix of real names and pseudonyms chosen by Anne.
Right. But what's truly vital to remember, and something this particular edition highlights, is that the identities of the incredible individuals who courageously helped the families in the secret annex. People like Miep Gies, Jan Gies, Victor Kugler, Johannes Kleiman, and Bep Voskiel.
The helpers.
Yes, their real names are consistently used. And this is not a small detail. It's a crucial acknowledgement of their immense bravery, their profound selflessness, and the absolutely vital role they played in sustaining those in hiding, at immense personal risk.
Absolutely. It makes you consider, doesn't it, how even seemingly minor editorial choices can profoundly shape our understanding of a historical figure and the incredibly complex, often perilous reality they navigated.
It really does.
And that brings us to our mission today. We're going to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight directly from Anne's diary excerpts. We'll delve into her vibrant, often surprising personality, the intricate web of her relationships, the daily, often mundane, yet utterly challenging realities of life in hiding.
And her incredibly profound reflections on humanity, all through her own candid, courageous, and remarkably insightful words.
Exactly. You're going to get a shortcut to being truly well-informed about her life in the secret annex, complete with surprising facts and context that make her story not just historically significant, but profoundly human and universally resonant even today.
So where should we begin before the annex?
Let's begin our exploration, by stepping back to a time just before the storm broke, in June and early July of 1942. We open on a particularly poignant day, Friday, June 12th, 1942. It's Anne's 13th birthday, and she describes waking up at 6 that morning filled with that unique mix of anticipation and boundless excitement that only a 13-year-old on her birthday can truly feel.
That preteen energy, yeah.
Totally. And it's on this very day that she receives you, Kitty, her diary. She immediately defines this new journal as the real friend she so desperately longed for, the confidant she felt she didn't yet possess. That feeling, that deep human need for a truly authentic connection, for a safe space to pour out your innermost thoughts without judgment, it resonates so deeply for any teenager, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it underscores a universal truth about adolescence, magnified, exponentially by her unique circumstances. Even at 13, Anne was clearly searching for a depth of understanding that went beyond her everyday friendships.
You really see that in her writing.
You do. Her diary entries from this period offer such vivid snapshots of her pre-hiding life, allowing us to see a relatively normal existence for a young girl in Amsterdam, albeit one increasingly shadowed by the grim realities of war. She describes waking at 6 a.m., her beloved cat, Morgie, greeting her with affectionate meows. Her school days sound quite typical. During recess, she'd bring joy by passing out cookies to her teachers and classmates, a simple yet sweet gesture that speaks volumes about her desire to connect. We even learned she went to gym with her class, though she humorously notes she wasn't allowed to fully participate because of a recurring issue with dislocating her shoulders and hips.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, a detail that brings her fragility and youthful vulnerabilities into sharp focus. For her birthday game, she chose volleyball, and her classmates circled her, singing happy birthday, painting a picture of a typical, cherished childhood moment.
Her friendships, too, seem to have been a source of both joy and typical teenage drama.
Precisely. She talks fondly of Hanley Gosler and Sam Letterman, her two closest friends from earlier days, who were so inseparable they were known as Anne, Han, and Sam.
Catchy name.
Right. But a significant shift occurred when she started at the Jewish Lyceum, where Jacqueline Van Marsen quickly emerged as her new best friend. What's truly remarkable, even at this young age, is Anne's gift for character observation. She provides these incredibly candid, often hilariously opinionated, and surprisingly astute sketches of her classmates.
Oh, I love these
They're
parts.
great. Betty Blumendahl, for instance, she describes as looking kind of poor and living on an obscure street, yet doing very well at school because she was exceptionally hardworking. Then there's Henny Metz, a nice girl with a cheerful disposition, but really childish outdoors, and unfortunately influenced by a dirty and vulgar friend named Beppy.
Ouch.
And J.R. Ann famously declared she could write a whole book about her. J.R. was detestable, sneaky, stuck-up, two-faced gossip who thought she was grown up. It was a terrible show-off with expensive dresses that were way too old for her.
She really didn't hold back.
Not at all. Anne's emphatic statement, "Jay and I can't stand each other," offers a wonderful glimpse into typical teenage rivalries. She also muses on Ilse Wagner, smart but lazy, Hanley, lies, shy but prone to blabbing to her mother, Nanny van Praagsagar, sensible, and Ifche de Jong, who, at only 12, was a terrific lady who acted as if Anne were a baby.
A terrific lady at 12.
I know. Even GZ, the prettiest girl, was kind of dumb, a surprising observation given she wasn't held back a year. These aren't just names. They're fully formed, if sharply observed, personalities, reflecting Anne's keen eye for human nature.
She certainly didn't mince words, did she? And her observations of boys are equally insightful and often quite amusing.
Oh, absolutely. She had a healthy, albeit critical interest in them. Maurice Coster was one of her many admirers, but Anne quickly dismisses him as pretty much of a pest.
Marie.
Sally Springer, she notes, had a filthy mind, but was terrific and quite funny. Emil Bonowit was deemed pretty boring, and Rob Cohen was simply obnoxious, two-faced, lying, sniveling little goof.
Haha, wow. Brutal honesty.
Right. But then we get this unexpectedly tender, almost romantic encounter with Hello Silberberg. She met him through a friend, he was 16, from Gelsenkirchen, living with his grandparents because his parents were in Belgium.
Hello, that's his name.
Hello Silberberg, yeah. And charmingly notes that ever since he met her, Hello realized he'd been falling asleep at his old girlfriend Ursula's side, implying Anne was kind of a pep tonic for him.
A pep tonic. That's adorable.
It's a surprising touch of innocent teenage romance, infatuation, and drama amidst the rising tensions of their lives. Though it didn't last long, as her father was furious when Hello brought her home late one night, a very normal parental concern, even with the backdrop of war.
It truly shows her vibrant, quintessential teenage spirit full of crushes and candid opinions, even as the world around her grew increasingly abnormal and menacing. This burgeoning social life, however, was quickly being choked off by a relentless series of anti-Jewish restrictions.
Indeed. And these weren't sudden dramatic events, but rather a slow, insidious tightening of the noose that began after May 1940. It was a deliberate, step-by-step dehumanization.
How did it start?
Jews were first forced to wear a yellow star, a badge of enforced segregation, making them instantly identifiable. Then give the confiscation of bicycles, followed by prohibitions on using streetcars or even their own cars, systematically stripping away their mobility and freedom of movement.
Just taking away basic freedoms, one by one.
Exactly. Shopping was restricted to specific limited hours between 3 and 5 p.m., further isolating them, and they could only frequent Jewish-owned barber shops and beauty parlors, creating a segregated society. A strict curfew was imposed, prohibiting Jews from being on the streets between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m.
8 p.m., that's so early.
What's particularly chilling here is the methodical way these restrictions escalated. It wasn't a sudden clampdown. It was a gradual, suffocating creep of oppression that slowly eroded every facet of daily life and freedom. Even simple pleasures, which most people take for granted, like going to an ice cream parlor, became a challenge.
Right, you mentioned that before. She had to find specific places.
Yeah, as Anne notes, they have to meticulously seek out places that allows Jews, like Oasis or Delphi. This methodical isolation and deprivation is a classic tactic of totalitarian regimes, designed to wear down and control a population, making the unthinkable slowly become the daily routine.
It's terrifying to see it laid out like that.
Anne's detailed observations provide a micro-view into that macro-historical process, showing its insidious impact on personal freedom.
And it's against this rapidly darkening backdrop that Anne makes a profoundly insightful and, frankly, quite moving statement about her diary itself. Paper has more patience than people. She notes she had an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest, and that she wasn't planning to let anyone else read her diary unless I should ever find a real friend.
That line always gets me. Paper has more patience.
Me too. This isn't just a casual observation. It speaks volumes. It makes you really consider. What does it say about her inner world, her burgeoning intellectual and emotional maturity, that she felt such a profound need for a true confidant, for an unfiltered space, despite having loving parents, a sister, and even about 30 people I can call friends?
That's a crucial point. It really highlights that even when surrounded by family and an extensive social circle, true emotional understanding, the freedom of unburdened expression, and the space for authentic self-discovery can still feel elusive. For a highly intelligent and sensitive young person like Anne, who was clearly thinking deeply about the world around her, superficial friendships simply wouldn't suffice.
The diary became that space.
It became her utterly safe, non-judgmental space to process her internal world, her complex emotions, her growing ideals, and her burgeoning sense of self without external pressures or the fear of being misunderstood. It was a critical outlet for her self-discovery, especially as the external world became increasingly suffocating and she was forced into a state of intense internal reflection. It became more than just a journal, it became her intellectual and emotional sanctuary.
That sanctuary became absolutely essential because the carefree days of school and ice cream parlors abruptly ended in July 1942 as the Frank family was forced into hiding. Anne's father, Otto, had initiated discussions about this stark reality over a month earlier, carefully explaining to Anne that it would be very hard for us to live cut off from the rest of the world.
You were preparing her.
Yeah. The family had actually been preparing for this eventuality for over a year, meticulously and quietly moving clothes, food, and furniture, piece by piece, to their future hiding place. But the true catalyst, the terrifying acceleration of their plans, was Margot's call-up notice.
Margot's notice. That changed
Well,
everything.
It arrived on Sunday, July 5, 1942, in order for her to report for forced labor. This chilling demand suddenly pushed their carefully prepared hiding date up by a harrowing 10 days.
10 days earlier than planned. Imagine the panic. The departure itself was a scene of desperate chaos and incredible bravery. Anne describes frantically packing her most important belongings into a school bag, not dresses or toys, but items of profound personal significance.
What did she take?
The very first thing she instinctively knew to stick in was her diary.
Of course.
And then curlers, handkerchiefs, school books, a comb, and some old letters. It's incredibly telling that her focus was on memories, intellectual pursuits, and personal items rather than material possessions. On the morning of their move, father, mother, and Anne undertook the perilous walk in the pouring rain, each of them laden with bags.
In the rain with the yellow stars.
Exactly. Their conspicuous yellow stars, mandated by the Nazi regime, made them instantly recognizable, drawing sympathetic yet helpless looks from people on their way to work who dared not offer transportation. It was a walk of quiet dignity and terrifying vulnerability. There was even a brilliantly clever ruse concocted by Mr. Van Daan, their future housemate.
The Van Danes weren't with them yet.
Not on that first walk, no. Mr. Van Daan fabricated a detailed story for their landlord and friends, including Mr. Goldschmidt, about a high-ranking officer in Maastricht, helping them cross to Belgium or Switzerland.
Wow, a whole fake escape plan.
Yeah, this elaborate deception was designed to explain their sudden disappearance, showcasing the extraordinary quick thinking and the constant, high-stakes charade needed for mere survival.
Once they arrived, the secret of their hidden world, the secret annex, began to unfold. The hiding place was ingeniously located in her father's office building, which housed the Apecta Company, later known as Gies & Co.
Right, the spice company.
Anne, with her typical attention to detail, provides a remarkably precise and vivid description of the layout from her perspective. The ground floor housed a large warehouse used as a workroom and storeroom, with various sections, including the milling room where spices were ground. A steep wooden staircase led from the downstairs hallway up to the third floor. At the top of these stairs was a landing, and the door to the right led directly to the secret annex, cleverly concealed at the back of the house.
Behind that plain gray door.
Exactly. Anne marvels at its unassuming exterior, noting, no one would ever suspect there were so many rooms behind that plain gray door. She meticulously describes their cramped yet surprisingly organized living quarters. The Frank family's living room, which also served as their bedroom, Peter Van Daan's tiny side room, and what would eventually become the Van Daans' combined kitchen, bedroom, and general living area.
So the Van Daans weren't there yet when the Franks arrived.
No, they came a bit later. Anne concludes her initial tour with a direct address to Kitty, her diary, saying, "Now I've introduced you to the whole of our lovely annex." A phrase tinged with both a young girl's pride and the deep irony of their situation.
Our lovely annex. Yeah, the irony is thick. And the initial days in hiding were a stark, immediate adjustment to an utterly alien way of life. Margot, Anne's sister, had arrived even earlier by bike and was already waiting. Anne describes the overwhelming mess upon their arrival. Piles of cardboard boxes and linens. So much stuff that she admits she can't find the words to describe it.
Just chaos.
Total chaos. Her mother and Margot were utterly exhausted, collapsing onto bare mattresses, but her father and Anne, who she affectionately describes as the two cleaner-uppers, immediately set about organizing the chaos with a remarkable sense of purpose. For days, they didn't even have a hot meal. Bep and Meep, their incredibly courageous helpers, managed the perilous task of grocery shopping with precious ration coupons.
Putting themselves at huge risk.
Huge risk. And Father worked tirelessly on creating blackout screens for the windows, crucial for their safety at night. Anne, with her characteristic spirit and determination, immediately started decorating her blank bedroom walls with her cherished postcard and movie star collections, making it much more cheerful.
Trying to make it feel like home, even then.
It's a small detail, but it speaks volumes about her innate need to create beauty and normalcy in an abnormal world. However, the most immediate and profound challenge was the absolute necessity of silence during the day, due to workers in neighboring businesses like the keg company and a furniture workshop.
Right, because the annex was part of a working building.
Exactly. Anne vividly recounts the strict, almost unbearable rule. We've forbidden Margot to cough at night, even though she has a bad cold, and they resorted to giving her large doses of codeine to suppress any sound.
God, that's awful. You can't even cough.
It makes you pause and consider the immense psychological toll of such constant vigilance, the suppression of natural human functions, and the profound mental adaptations required to live in such extreme, silent constraints. How quickly can the human spirit adapt to such a suffocating lack of freedom, and what are the long-term echoes of such an experience?
Those first days in the secret annex certainly laid bare the unique challenges of their confined existence. And it wasn't long before new housemates arrived, further intensifying the dynamics within the cramped space. Peter Van Den came first, whom Anne initially described as a shy, awkward boy whose company won't amount to much, a typically blunt teenage assessment. He was almost 16 at the time.
Not a glowing review initially.
Not at all. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Van Den, arrived about half an hour later. Mrs. Van Den, whose real name was Auguste Van Pels, made quite the memorable entrance, carrying a hat box that contained a large chamber pot.
Famous chamber pot.
Declaring with disarming frankness, "I just don't feel at home without my chamber pot." Mr. Van Den, Herman Van Pels, for his part, lugged a collapsible tea table, items of comfort that spoke to their hopes for some semblance of domesticity.
Trying to bring a bit of normal life with them.
Exactly. And then, as reports of the dreadful things being done to the Jews in Amsterdam intensified by the day, the incredible difficult decision was made to bring in an eighth person, Alfred Dussel, a dentist.
Mr. Dussel. So 8 people in that small space.
8 people. He arrived in a state of utter astonishment, having been under the impression, thanks to Mr. Van Den's earlier ruse, that the Franks had actually managed to escape to Belgium, a testament to the effectiveness of their desperate charade.
He thought they were safe in Belgium. Mr. Dussel's arrival necessitated further complex adjustments to their already strained living arrangements. Anne, with her characteristic meticulousness and biting humor, even recorded a set of typewritten rules and regulations for the secret annex, which they jokingly titled Prospectus and Guide to the Secret Annex, a unique facility for the temporary accommodation of Jews and other dispossessed persons.
Wow, they made a formal guide with that title.
Yeah, that ironic title. This document, recorded in her diary, is rich with ironic details such as price, free, diet, low fat, hinting at their grim reality. But it also laid out the incredibly stringent daily life constraints. Rest hours were rigorously enforced from 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., and residents were required to observe rest hours during the daytime when instructed, a rule strictly enforced for their collective safety.
Total silence during the day.
Total silence. They had to speak softly at all times, with only the language of civilized people allowed, specifically meaning no German when workers were present downstairs, for fear of being overheard. Outdoor activities, naturally, were completely forbidden.
Of course.
Radio listening was restricted to classical German music with news bulletins, their only real link to the outside world, strictly prohibited during vulnerable hours. Shared bathroom facilities meant Peter took his baths in the office kitchen, even though it had a glass door, necessitating him to announce loudly when he did so.
A bath in the kitchen with a glass door? Oh my gosh.
Mr. Van Daan had the arduous task of carrying hot water upstairs for baths, and Margot and Anne bathed in the front office, using a chink in the curtains for a sliver of privacy and a glimpse of the outside world. Alcohol, a luxury, was strictly for medicinal purposes only.
So very strict rules.
Extremely. It's details like Anne's specific mention of the low doorway leading to the annex, which caused everyone bumps on our foreheads, until Peter cleverly patted it with a towel and wood shavings that truly bring their cramped, highly regulated, and perilous existence to vivid life. These small, shared inconveniences underscore the larger, terrifying constraints.
Oh, those bumps. You can just imagine the daily indignities and physical discomforts they endured. And within these cramped quarters, with 8 distinct personalities confined together, internal conflicts and personality clashes inevitably flared and intensified. Mr. Dussel, the dentist, quickly earned Anne's sharp characterization as a hypochondriac, constantly complaining of a litany of ailments.
Always something wrong with him, according to Anne.
Right, from a blue tongue to a stiff neck, lumbago, and pains in his heart, kidneys, and lungs. Anne comically details his dental practice session with Mrs. Van Daan as a quack at work, highlighting both the absurdity of their situation and Mr. Dussel's amateurish attempts at dentistry.
A quack at work. That's brilliant.
Anne's own parental dynamics were incredibly complex during this time. While she unequivocally adored her father, whom she called the most adorable father I've ever seen, she felt a growing, painful distance from her mother and Margot. She describes a gnawing ache inside when she perceived her father favoring Margot, who, in Anne's eyes, was always the smartest, the kindest, the prettiest, and the best.
That sibling rivalry, even intensified in hiding.
Absolutely. Anne desperately longed to be taken seriously as an individual with her own ideas, plans, and ideals, rather than being perpetually treated like the clown and mischief maker of the family, a role she felt stifled by.
The constant, inescapable proximity also turned the Van Daan's arguments into a daily feature of Anne's life, often erupting over what Anne observed as trivial things. She recounts one particularly terrible fight between Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, which she had never seen anything like. Mr. Van Daan even flew into a rage over Peter reading a forbidden book about women.
Oh, really? A forbidden book?
Yeah, a detail that gives us a window into the tensions around privacy and moral standards. This raises a profound question. How did constant, enforced close proximity, the utter lack of personal space and privacy, not only exacerbate existing personality clashes, but also perhaps even create new ones?
Turning small things into huge fights.
It's exactly. Turning minor disagreements into major confrontations that reverberated through their entire confined world. Anne often felt she was the subject of these discussions, which she acidly referred to as quarrels. Mrs. Van Daan in particular would constantly criticize her, often starting with the infuriating phrase, "If Anne were my daughter."
Oh, that must have driven her crazy.
Yet Anne's self-defense and sharp wit shine through even in these moments of frustration, and she famously observed, with a wisdom far beyond her years, that you only really get to know a person after a fight. Only then can you judge their true character.
Wow. That's incredibly insightful for a teenager.
It's remarkably astute, isn't it? Born of extreme constraint.
Despite the constant friction, the suffocating environment, and the omnipresent threat of discovery, Anne's diary also reveals moments of quiet pleasures and persistent, almost defiant hope amidst the pervasive fears. The external threats were, of course, a constant, terrifying backdrop. They lived with the daily dread of discovery, of their hiding place will be discovered and that will be shot.
That constant fear must have been paralyzing.
Yeah. They saw military vehicles patrolling the streets, heard of brutal slave hunts for Jews, and received chilling news of Westerbork, the transit camp, and the unspeakable horrors of gassing. Anne even described the annex as melancholy annex at times, a deeply resonant phrase. Yet, amidst this profound darkness, they found internal comforts.
Like Hanukkah and St. Nicholas Day.
Exactly. Celebrating Hanukkah and St. Nicholas Day, exchanging small, precious gifts like a penny brooch or homemade fondant. The radio became a vital lifeline, a tenuous but crucial link to the outside world, providing both news and, crucially, a morale boost, with the BBC broadcasting messages of resilience like, cheer up, keep your spirits high, things are bound to get better.
That radio was everything. Food, or more precisely, the constant scarcity of it, was another grinding daily reality. Bread was delivered daily, a staple, but beyond that, sustenance was a struggle. Black market ration books were absolutely essential for their survival, and their cost was skyrocketing, from 27 to 33 guilders, reflecting the escalating desperation outside.
33 guilders? Wow, that must have been a fortune.
It was a huge expense. Anne, humorously, yet tellingly, recounts the incident with 300 pounds of beans, bought to supplement their meager diet, which spilled and created a veritable sea of brown on the stairs,
A sea of beans.
a testament to the sheer quantity and their desperate need for provisions. Peeling potatoes was a daily, seemingly endless ritual, and Anne even describes her father's meticulous potato-peeling face, transforming a mundane chore into a form of precision work.
Finding the detail, even in peeling potatoes.
What's truly striking here is Anne's incredible resilience, her ability to find moments of humor and joy even in such profound hardship. She finds amusement in the warehouse cats, Bosch and Tommy, named after political sides,
Political cats.
and the antics of Moochie, the annex cat, who once caused a minor flood by peeing over a crack in the floor, leaking onto the dining table below.
Oh, gross, but also kind of funny in a dark way.
These small joys, these shared moments of absurd normalcy and the rigorous daily routines provided much-needed anchors in a world turned utterly upside down. They were small acts of defiance against the crushing weight of their circumstances.
As the months in hiding stretched on, Anne's inner world continued its astonishing evolution, and her relationships, particularly with Peter Van Dane, began to deepen in unexpected ways. Her writing ambitions, which she had harbored from the beginning, became even more fervent during this period. She harbored a deep, burning desire to be a journalist and a famous writer.
She was serious about it.
Very serious. She was actively working on several creative projects. Her fairy tale, Eva's Dream, a story called Katie's Life, and of course, The Secret Annex, her diary itself, which she consciously intended to publish after the war. Her self-criticism, even at this young age, was fierce and honest. I know I can write, a few of my stories are good, but it remains to be seen whether I really have talent.
That vulnerability, even alongside the ambition.
And her powerful, almost prophetic statement, I want to go on living even after my death, encapsulates her extraordinary drive, her desperate need for her voice to endure. It makes you wonder, how did such extreme confinement, far from stifling her creativity, actually nurture and intensify her intellectual curiosity and artistic spirit?
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Confinement, in a strange way, seemed to sharpen her focus and deepen her intellectual curiosity. She dove into a wide range of subjects, pursuing hobbies with an almost academic rigor. She meticulously researched genealogical charts of royal families, immersed herself in history, which she declared my favorite, delved into Greek and Roman mythology, and even art history.
Wow, all while hiding.
All while hiding. She proudly notes she knew the 9 muses and the 7 loves of Zeus. Interestingly, in contrast to these passions, she found algebra, geometry, and arithmetic utterly dreadful.
Haha, some things are universal for teenagers.
Right. She also took a shorthand course, a practical skill, and there's an amusing detail about her father, a highly educated man, making unbelievable mistakes in Dutch when she, his young daughter, tutored him.
And tutoring her dad, that's great.
Beyond academics, Anne's reflections on womanhood grew surprisingly candid and profound for a young girl on the cusp of puberty. She writes openly about menstruation, discusses learning about sex from her friend Jacqueline and her own father.
Which must have been quite progressive conversations for the time.
Absolutely. And perhaps most strikingly, she develops incredibly strong opinions on women's equality, explicitly inspired by a book called Soldiers on the Home Front. She makes this truly powerful and visionary statement. Women who struggle and suffer pain to ensure the continuation of the human race make much tougher and more courageous soldiers than all those big-mouthed freedom-fighting heroes put together.
That is incredible. Just wow.
This is truly compelling. An early, articulate feminist perspective emerging from a young girl in hiding, questioning societal norms and celebrating the quiet yet profound strength of women. It speaks to her innate capacity for critical thought and her emerging sense of justice.
That level of feminist insight from someone her age in those unimaginable circumstances is truly astounding. And speaking of relationships, her connection with Peter Van Dane began to deepen significantly during this period. Her initial desire for Peter was simply someone to talk to, a confidant in their shared, suffocating isolation, a relief from the often tense atmosphere with the adults.
Someone her own age, basically.
Right. What started as a casual friendship in their confined space gradually blossomed into something far more intimate. Peter and Anne had surprisingly frank, almost disarmingly innocent discussions, even about the sex of the cat, Bosch, and later, quite candidly, about human anatomy.
Those biology lessons in the annex.
Anne's innocent curiosity met Peter's calm, often tentative explanations. She details her questions about female anatomy, and Peter clarifies the male sexual organ and procedures like neutering animals. It compels us to ask, what was the true significance of these intimate, almost clinical discussions in their highly confined and isolated world?
It's a powerful testament to their growing trust and the desperate need for normalcy, for a space of open inquiry in a world that offered none. These conversations might have represented a shared search for knowledge, a way to reclaim a small part of the normal developmental curiosity of
Or
adolescence.
maybe something deeper.
Or perhaps, more profoundly, they were a form of profound connection, an intimacy born of shared vulnerability and isolation, where they could explore aspects of life that were otherwise entirely denied to them. Their emotional closeness certainly deepened. Anne records a vivid dream about Peter Schiff, a boy she knew from outside, describing his velvety brown eyes and cool, soft cheek, which clearly influenced her rapidly developing feelings for Peter Van Daan.
The dream about the other Peter.
Exactly. She writes with raw honesty, "Nothing is as dear to me now as my darling Petal." And she recounts, with tender detail, their first physical intimacy. A moment when Peter put his arm around her, their heads touched, and then a mutual kiss near the mouth.
Their first kiss in the annex.
It was a tender, evolving connection, a spark of romance in the most unlikely of places. What adds another poignant layer to this is Margot, Anne's older sister, who observed this closeness and even wrote Anne a note.
Margot wrote a note. What did it say?
She admitted her own longing for a confidant and expressing a profound wish that Anne and Peter could place your trust in each other, because you're already missing out on so much here.
Oh, that's heartbreaking and so generous of Margot.
This adds immense empathy and complexity to the internal dynamics of the annex, highlighting Margot's own quiet suffering and yearning for connection. Of course, her father, Otto, also noticed Anne's increasingly frequent visits to Peter's room and, with understandable parental anxiety, had a conversation with Anne, fearing their friendship might turn into love in such close quarters, a testament to the immense anxieties of parenting under such extraordinary high-stakes stress.
Just as Anne's inner life and relationships were blossoming, the stark, terrifying realities of their hiding place would periodically reassert themselves with brutal force. One such incident, etched vividly in her diary, was the burglary scare on April 10th, 1944.
The burglary, right. That must have been terrifying.
Anne details the forced entry into the building below them, the unsettling sounds from downstairs, and the discovery of a missing projector in Mr. Kugler's briefcase. She describes the palpable, suffocating fear of the police arriving, the terrifying realization that 8 hearts pounded in unison as they heard a chilling rattling at the bookcase that cleverly concealed their entrance.
The bookcase door. They thought they were found.
Now we're done for, Anne thought in that terrifying moment, convinced their hidden world was about to be exposed. The diary itself, her most precious possession, was central to her desperate fear. Oh, not my diary. If my diary goes, I go too.
Wow. The diary was her life, in so many ways.
This single sentence powerfully highlights the immense personal significance of her journal, not just as a record of her experiences, but as an extension of her very being, her identity, her soul. The immediate aftermath of the burglary brought its own unsettling blend of sheer terror and the almost absurd, mundane realities of hiding.
Like the toilet incident.
Exactly. This included a rather comical yet utterly desperate incident with the toilet clogging because they were using precious strawberry recipes as toilet paper, which Peter, with a grimace, had to fish out.
Strawberry recipes as toilet paper. You can't make this stuff up.
Peter even took on a new serious role patrolling the house at night, and general rules within the annex tightened even further, demonstrating the constant necessary adaptations to existential threats. What's truly striking here is that raw blend of sheer terror with the incredibly intimate, almost ludicrous details of their daily struggle for survival.
As the diary approached its final heartbreaking months from May to August 1944, Anne's moods reflected the oscillating hopes and despairs of their situation, a testament to the emotional roller coaster they lived on. She keenly observed and articulated this emotional whiplash, noting how one day we're laughing at the comical side of life in hiding, and the next day we're frightened, and the fear, tension, and despair can be read on our faces.
Such highs and lows.
She unflinchingly recognized that she was more miserable than I have in months, during some of these profound low points, laying bare the psychological toll of their confinement.
Yet, even in what she sometimes called the melancholy annex, Anne found profound, almost spiritual solace in the power of nature. Peeking through the dusty attic windows, despite the grime and the limited view, she found a vital connection to the outside world, however circumscribed.
That attic window view was so important to
He
her.
wrote with breathtaking clarity, "As long as this exists, this sunshine and this cloudless sky, how can I be sad?" She firmly believed that nature makes me feel humble and ready to face every blow with courage. This simple yet deeply profound appreciation for the natural world, however glimpsed, became her most vital source of comfort, strength, and renewal in her crushing confinement. It was her enduring connection to life, to freedom, to the beautiful world beyond their walls.
And then, amidst the fluctuating moods, came the news that brought an explosion of renewed, almost intoxicating hope. On June 6, 1944, they heard the electrifying BBC announcement, "The invasion has begun, D-Day." It caused a huge commotion in the annex. Anne describes the overwhelming excitement, the hushed joy, and the collective sighs of relief as they listened intently to the speeches by Allied leaders like General Dwight Eisenhower and Winston Churchill, filling them with the exhilarating feeling that friends are on the way.
That must have felt like liberation was finally coming.
The thought of going back to school, of a return to normalcy, of a future suddenly seemed palpable, almost within reach. "Where there's hope, there's life," she wrote, capturing the profound collective shift in morale and the overwhelming sense of anticipation after years of fear and suffocating confinement. This moment vividly demonstrates the immense psychological power of hope, even a fragile one, in sustaining the human spirit under extreme duress.
But even with the glorious news of the invasion, continued hardship remained their relentless daily reality. Food was a constant, desperate struggle. "Lettuce, lettuce, and more lettuce," she writes.
Oh, the endless lettuce.
Alongside complaints about rotten potatoes and the muck of pickled kale, which Anne describes with characteristic revulsion as smelling like spoiled plums, rotten eggs, and brine. She meticulously lists her clothing budget, revealing the stark simplicity of their basic needs, including 3 cotton undershirts at 0.50, and laments the state of their deteriorating clothes. Frayed trousers, a broken corset, a bra that's 2 sizes too small.
Just the basics wearing out with no way to replace them.
She vividly recounts the tedious, soul-crushing process of shelling 20 pounds of peas and meticulously removing their inner linings, a task that solidified her resolve. "I never ever want to be just a housewife."
Aha, the pea shelling incident. That really stuck with her.
The black market thrived outside their hidden world, with skyrocketing prices for essentials like tea, coffee, and butter, and the constant threat of break-ins, murders, and thefts from the desperate populace served as a terrifying reminder of the chaos and lawlessness just beyond their walls.
Adding to this immense burden was the mounting stress on their brave, compassionate helpers, Meep, Bep, Mr. Kleiman, and Mr. Kugler. These unsung heroes carried an unimaginable weight, dealing with their own illnesses, personal problems, and the constant life-threatening risks of providing aid to 8 people in hiding.
The pressure on them must have been immense.
Unbelievable. Mr. Voskuil, Bep's father, who had been a vital source of information from the warehouse, developed advanced cancer, which was a disaster for the annex residents, cutting off a crucial link to the outside world and adding to their sense of isolation. What's so profoundly insightful here is Anne's acute awareness of the immense sacrifices made by those outside who risked everything for them, an awareness that transcends mere self-pity and speaks to her capacity for empathy even in her own dire circumstances.
In her final poignant reflections, Anne reveals an astonishing degree of personal growth and unflinching honesty. She recognized with clarity that she had changed quite drastically, and importantly, for the better. She committed herself to a path of unwavering honesty, even when it meant unflattering self-assessment, and wrestled with her complex, often painful relationship with her mother, admitting, "I was furious at Mother, but I didn't understand her either."
That developing maturity, that self-awareness,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Her deep reflections on suffering, faith, and Jewish identity are particularly powerful and mature. It's God who has made us the way we are, but it's also God who will lift us up again. She held a firm, almost defiant conviction that the weak shall fall and the strong shall survive, a testament to her resilient spirit.
Such strength even then.
She even expressed a profound desire to become a Dutch citizen after the war, declaring her enduring love for Holland and its language, a testament to her connection to the place where she found sanctuary, however fleeting. It makes you consider, how does such extreme adversity, such profound suffering, forge such a remarkably strong personal and spiritual identity in a young person?
It's truly extraordinary to witness this transformation in her own words. And her ultimate legacy, what she desperately hoped for, comes through with piercing clarity in her articulated purpose for writing. I want to be useful or bring enjoyment to all people, even those I've never met. I want to go on living even after my death. She poured her soul, her intellect, her boundless spirit into those pages, never knowing the profound, immeasurable impact they would ultimately have on generations across the globe.
The Diary of Anne Frank ends abruptly on August 1st, 1944. Just 3 days later, on August 4th, 1944, the 8 residents of the secret annex, along with 2 of their brave helpers, were arrested.
The unwritten end. The fate of their courageous helpers, however, thankfully differed. Miep Gies and her husband Jan Gies both survived the war. Miep, who famously preserved Anne's diary, lived to be 100 years old, passing away in 2010, and Jan in 1993.
Miep lived to 100. Amazing.
Victor Kugler, who helped manage the office and was also arrested, managed to escape imprisonment in March 1945 and later immigrated to Canada, where he passed away in Toronto in 1989. Jonas Kleiman, despite his poor health, was released from Amersfoort camp due to illness and remained in Amsterdam until his death in 1959. Elizabeth Bip Voskalvik, another vital helper, also survived, dying in Amsterdam in 1983.
Their bravery is just beyond words.
Their extraordinary bravery in hiding the families at immense personal risk remains an enduring testament to human compassion and resistance against unimaginable evil.
But for the 8 residents of the secret annex, the reality was grim, a heartbreaking testament to the brutal efficiency of the Nazi machinery of death. They were first taken to a Gestapo prison in Amsterdam, then tragically transferred to Westerbork, the horrific transit camp for Jews in northern Holland. On September 3, 1944, they were forced onto the very last transport to leave Westerbork, arriving 3 agonizing days later in Auschwitz, Poland.
The last transport.
Herman van Pels, Mr. Van Daan, was gassed to death in Auschwitz in October or November 1944, tragically just before the gas chambers at the camp were dismantled. Auguste van Pels, Mrs. Van Daan, was transported through multiple concentration camps, including Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald, and ultimately did not survive, perishing sometime after January 1945.
So much suffering after the annex.
Peter van Pels, the quiet boy who found love with Anne, was forced on a brutal death march from Auschwitz to Mauthausen, where he tragically died on May 5, 1945, a mere 3 days before the camp was liberated.
3 days before liberation. Heartbreaking.
Fritz Pfeffer, Mr. Dessel, died in Neuengamme concentration camp in December 1944. Edith Frank, Anne's beloved mother, succumbed to hunger and exhaustion in Auschwitz-Birkenau on January 6, 1945. And most heartbreakingly, Margot and Anne Frank were transported from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. They both tragically succumbed to typhus in late February or early March 1945, their bodies likely discarded in mass graves, only weeks before the camp was finally liberated by British troops on April 12, 1945.
Only weeks before. It is an utterly harrowing and devastating end to their physical story, but the diary itself, Anne's voice, miraculously survived. Otto Frank, Anne's father, as we mentioned, was the sole survivor of the annex residents. After the war, Miep Gies, with incredible foresight and dedication, presented him with Anne's preserved diary, which she had found after the arrest.
Yet saved the diary.
She did, and in doing so, he fulfilled Anne's deepest, most fervent wish by publishing it, ensuring her voice, her spirit, her insights would indeed go on living even after her death, echoing through history for all time.
We've delved into Anne Frank's profound inner life, a testament to her incredible wit, her relentless intellectual curiosity, her raw, often unsettling honesty, and her enduring, almost defiant hope. She was, in so many ways, a typical teenager, full of dreams, frustrations, and burgeoning emotions. Yet she lived and grew up, found her voice and her first love in the most atypical, terrifying of times. Her words remind us that even in the darkest corners of human history, the human spirit can shine with astonishing brilliance.
Absolutely. When we connect this deeply personal narrative to the broader historical landscape, Anne Frank's diary emerges as far more than just a historical account of the Holocaust. It's a timeless testament to the astonishing resilience of the human spirit. It's a vivid portrayal of the universal challenges of growing up, intensified by unimaginable pressures. And perhaps most powerfully, it's a profound demonstration of the extraordinary power of individual expression, of a singular voice, in the face of unspeakable oppression.
It really makes you think.
It compels us to ask, what enduring lessons can we draw from Anne's insights about human nature, about the quiet acts of kindness, and the terrifying depths of cruelty that remain so profoundly relevant for us today?
Indeed. Anne Frank famously wrote, "I want to go on living even after my death." As you've listened to her powerful words today, consider this. What does it mean for you to truly live, to fully inhabit your own life, and what legacy, what echo of your spirit do you hope to leave behind, regardless of your circumstances?
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.